Baby Talk is the segment of the 13th episode of the second season of the Rugrats reboot, and the narrative itself is not the most interesting, but it definitely raises an interesting concept. This involves Susie's cousin Edwin, who is, of course, her brother in the classic series, coming over to play, and he goes over to Susie and the babies, and they talk to him, and he doesn't understand them. And it's this concept that Edwin is a little too old to understand baby talk. And Angelica explains, rather amusingly, she points out that it doesn't affect her, but it does affect other children. And when they reach a certain age, they can no longer talk to babies. Now, Angelica looks like she's about the same age as Edwin. We have to assume that Angelica is maybe on the cusp of being at the age where she can't talk to babies anymore, but certainly, as we know, she can still. And she explains that eventually most children can no longer talk baby. And the events within the episode are honestly not that fascinating. Susie tries various things to get Edwin to understand what she's saying. She tries to reconnect with games they used to play, which is kind of heartbreaking in a way because it's like she's lost a friend. And obviously, as she gets a little bit older, she will be able to communicate with him again. But it is still a little bit emotional for Susie, at least. And we have a tiny bit of imaginative play that I didn't mind. I liked what it was showing. It kind of suggested, and I guess this is a spoiler here, but it kind of suggests that even when you're older, you still retain that childlike quality, or I guess that babyish quality here, to perhaps want for a better term. I like that it's suggesting that, but the imaginative play itself, I didn't really care for it. The events within the episode aren't that interesting, but it does fascinate me as a concept that babies have their own language. And there are, of course, suggestions that babies can understand each other in ways that we can't, older people can't understand them. And it's just an interesting thought. There are many studies that look at whether babies can understand each other or other people and if they can communicate in their own ways. It's definitely very interesting. Would it be the case that a 3-4-year-old would no longer be able to communicate with a young baby? Who knows? There are plenty of studies online about this, of course, and I think it does raise some interesting theories. And as an episode, it isn't that great. It's not the most interesting in terms of the specifics of the narrative, but I like that we had some attention focusing on Susie. It was nice to have Edwin in this as a character, as he is a pretty great character, even though he's in a different role to Susie's brother in the classic series. But it still works well. The animation is fine. The creative, imaginative play part of it was well enough animated, but as I said, personally, it didn't really do anything for me. So, not a favourite, but in some ways, a pretty thought-provoking episode.